There's some middle class mindsets that yes, I grew up with and maybe you grew up with as well that are actually limiting my business potential. Oh, I need more clients or I need to run more ads, when really you need to change your mindset. So if you want to know what these middle class mindsets are that are holding you back in your business, you're in luck because we're going to get into it right now. Hey, CourtneyLSanders here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, I'm a full-time online life and business coach as well as wife and mom. I wear all the hats and do all the things, but as I wear all the hats and do all the things and continue to grow my business, I'm recognizing that there's some middle class mindsets that yes, I grew up with and maybe you grew up with as well that are actually limiting my business potential. And so I've done a lot of work to really eliminate a lot of these mindsets, but I want to at least bring them to your awareness, because if you're not realizing these middle class mindset scripts that are running in the background, you might be hitting a limit in your business and wondering why that is the case and not really understanding what is going on. Maybe you're like, oh, I need more clients, or I need to run more ads, or I need to do better with my social media, when really you need to change your mindset. So if you want to know what these middle class mindsets are that are holding you back in your business, you're in luck because we're going to get into it right now. All right, the first and biggest middle class mindset that I know is holding you back in your business, because it has held me back for a long time and I'm actively working against this. And this is this mindset of doing it yourself versus delegating. Oh my goodness. When you grow up middle class, it's always about, how you can save money by putting in the time to do something yourself, whether it's fixing your own car or painting your own bedroom or all of this. Oh, I'm saving money. Look at me. I'm saving money. I'm such a great person and I'm doing it myself. And while this works if you perhaps only have one stream of income, and I think that's why middle class people are often taught this mindset, because we're not taught to even think about multiple streams of income, which is a whole nother discussion. But again, the powers that be want us only working, this one job, never questioning our salary or what we're getting paid. And so because we have this one income stream, we tend to think about, oh my goodness, I need to save as much money as possible. Therefore, I need to do everything myself. The key though, when you are an entrepreneur and you are aspiring to build wealth for yourself and really ascend to the higher levels of society, is that do-it-yourself mindset is one of the first things that you need to let go, and you have to learn delegation. In fact, there's a really great book that I always recommend. It's called Empower Yourself by Gary Coleman. I'll make sure that we include it in the links below, but it really explains the different levels of society and what you're gonna have to contend with if you really desire to break out of, your current situation and, go as high as you can. It talks about how one of the key shifts that happens for people, especially as they start to not just start a business, but really grow a business and get it to a level where they're at the multi-million-dollar, and certainly if they're at the billion-dollar level, is learning how to delegate the details of their work. This is really that line of demarcation that separates just the average small business owner from the true entrepreneur who really builds a company and is able to grow something at scale and really build wealth. That ability to delegate the details of their work. And oftentimes you learn to delegate the details of your work by getting out of the do-it-yourself mindset in other aspects of your life. And so I talk all the time about how my first business hire, not literally, because I know this isn't tax deductible per se, but in my mind, how I saw her, my first business hire was actually my housekeeper. And so when I was working my 9-to-5 job and building my business on the side, I hired a housekeeper to come every 2 weeks on a Saturday to delegate, right? I was delegating that aspect of my domestic work so that I had more free time to grow my business. And so I'm finding that the better I get at delegating, the more I get out of that do-it-yourself mindset. But it is really key to transcend to the next level of your business. You got to get out of doing it yourself. So I know there's a lot of things that oftentimes you have to do when you are first starting your business, but as soon as you make enough revenue to start to hire that stuff out, you need to do that immediately. And I did this at every stage. I always tell people that before I paid myself, I paid not one, but 2 virtual assistants while I was working my full-time job, because I understood how important it was for me to be able to delegate customer service, graphic design. And so every time I make more money, I reach back and I say, okay, what aspect of my work can I not do anymore, right? What aspect of my work can I go ahead and delegate? And I delegate that. I use the extra money that I've made to delegate that. And then that helps me generate more money, which then I can reach back and look at something else to delegate. And so the cycle continues. So that's the first middle class mindset that you're gonna have to let go, is this idea of doing it all yourself. All right, the next middle class mindset that you're gonna have to let go of is this idea of mo money, mo problems, right? I find that oftentimes in the middle class, there is this apprehension to want to do anything that's gonna help you make more money because it's all the problems, so to speak, that come along with it, right? Oh, I'm gonna have to pay more in taxes. All my family and friends are gonna be hitting me up and asking me for money. And so I find that a lot of middle class people shrink from doing things that could create more wealth in their lives because they think that more money equals more problems. But what I found is the more problems you can solve, the more money you can actually create for yourself. So instead of getting into a mindset of problem avoidance, you actually want to seek problems out, because if you can solve higher and higher level problems, bigger and bigger problems, that's the more income that you can create for yourself. And so again, in the middle class, we're not taught to solve big problems. We're taught to just focus on the problem that we've been hired for, right? In our corporations, keep your head down, do this work and don't do anything else. But again, if you want to create wealth for yourself, if you want to build a business and really start to grow at scale, you got to get used to seeking problems out, and not just seeking problems out, but seeking out bigger and bigger problems so that you can solve them for a bigger and bigger payday. So no, it's not true, more money, more problems, because the truth is you're gonna have more problems either way as you just live life. In fact, it's a joy to be able to solve problems because you become a bigger and better person for it, right? So regardless of just the money that you're earning, you are developing the skills and the character in order to be able to solve problems, not just for yourself, but for your family and for your employees and for those around you. So instead of being in a mindset of problem avoidance, oh, I don't want more money because I don't want more problems, get into a mindset of like, oh no, I'm looking for the problems, because if I can solve these problems, both as a person, again, growing my character, but also in terms of solving problems for money, right? Being able to identify gaps in the marketplace, solve them, and then create greater payday for myself, you will find that your business grows. All right, the next middle class mindset that we have to get out of is this mindset of, can I afford it, right? Again, going back to what I said earlier, oftentimes in the middle class, we only have one stream of income. And so we were very protective of that stream of income, and we went to nickel and dime and save it as much as possible. And to be quite honest, if that is the financial framework that you are choosing, to live in, you don't want to create more wealth for yourself. You just want to, work this one job and have this one stream of income, then that is a smart mindset, right? You want to save as much possible and do focus on what only you can afford. However, if you are looking to grow a business, there's gonna be a lot that you can't afford initially, but you need to figure out how to afford it in order to grow your business. And that's where OPM, or other people's money, comes in. And so oftentimes in the middle class, there is a strong aversion to debt because we're thinking about debt in our own name, and we're thinking about debt in relation to the income that we are bringing in our 9-to-5 job. However, when you start a business, you really gotta get out of that mindset. And no, I'm not saying go out and get into a bunch of debt, but understand that when you start a business and it's structured correctly, right? So you have a corporate entity, that entity is actually separate from you, right? That entity has its own, EIN number. It's basically like a social security number for a business, at least if you're here in the US. It has its own credit score. And that entity, you want it to be able to borrow money on its own behalf in order to serve the needs of your business. So you really want to get out of your own pocket and start to develop a pocket for your business. And sometimes that does involve borrowing money in your business's name for the purposes of growing your business, because oftentimes in order to get to the next level, you're going to need to advance the money ahead of time in order to generate that revenue. And I see so many entrepreneurs who, again, allow their middle class mindset to hold them back, where they're like, man, I would hire that person, or, I would pay for that equipment, or I would pay for that software or that coaching or whatever it is that I need, but I don't have the money to do it. Therefore, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines until I get the money. And the thing is, you're never going to get the money, or it's going to take you a very long time to get the money, because you're going to have to save up for it with that one income stream that is already responsible for paying your mortgage, your car note, your food. Like, when you think about all the different things that one income stream for your job is already responsible for, there's very little money left over, which is why it's going to take you forever if you wait until you can afford it or can save up the money for everything. So when you get into a business, you want to immediately get into the mindset of, this business is actually an entity that's separate from me, and I want to build up its credit score as much as possible so that I can borrow on that business's behalf, because that's going to allow me to get ahead faster. So other people's money, OPM, it is available to you. Even if you're a brand new business, there are banks and different business credit cards that will give you a line of credit right away, again, as long as your business is structured properly. So you you want to get out of the mindset of being, fearful of using other people's money. Use it smartly, but understand that that's the benefit of being in business and it is available to you. All right, I have more where that came from, but first I want to hear from you. What middle class mindset do you know is holding your business back? Share in the comments below. All right, the next middle class mindset that holds a lot of entrepreneurs back, and this is something that I'm starting to notice more, and people might be surprised to hear me say this, but it's this idea of self-care, right? Oftentimes when you are operating at a higher level, you need a higher level of self-care in order to be able to maintain that. I find that in the middle class, again, when you're just working your 9-to-5 job and you're just focused on one stream of income, it's kind of like, okay, I go to work, I do what I have to do at work, and then I come home, and then that's just the end of it. But the truth is, when you are running a business, especially when you are growing it to a level, you have employees, there's people dependent on you, all of this responsibility, there is a high level of pressure. And so in order to be able to perform at a high level and to be able to withstand that pressure, your self-care becomes more and more important. And I find that people often don't really focus on self-care, again, because we're not taught to in the middle class. It's just this idea of like, okay, you go to work, Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends, party it up, go drinking at brunch with your friends, have a great time, and then just do it all over again. But I'm finding as an entrepreneur, my self-care is so important because I need to make sure that I am like a fine-tuned machine so that I can show up in my business, because my business runs 24/7, right? And I try not to work 24/7, but if something comes up on a Saturday or something and I need to handle it, again, that's extra pressure that I've signed up for to be able to operate at this level. Again, there's bigger rewards with it, right? If you can withstand a higher level of pressure, if you can withstand a higher level of problems, there's a higher level of reward with it, more pay, more freedom, all these different things. But that higher level of leadership requires that you take care of yourself at a higher and higher level. And so self-care goes beyond, oh, I'm just gonna go get my nails done, or I'm gonna go to brunch with my friends. Self-care goes down to my diet, right? I'm very much more intentional about what I eat, because if I eat something crazy and I get a really bad headache, because I am prone to migraines, and I have a migraine for the rest of the day, that's actual money. That's like big money that it has cost me because I'm not able to show up in my business. If I don't feel well, if I'm not able to engage on camera and do my content, like everything that I do has bigger and bigger consequences now, not just because I'm, working in my business, but also because of the things that I do have an effect on my employees, my vendors, and even my clients. And so there's more riding on me, and I have to be very, very intentional in making sure that I am in tip-top shape and I am in tip-top performance. So self-care is optimal. And again, in the middle class, it's like, oh, that's silly. Rich people, why are they taking these vacations? Why are they outsourcing everything? Can't you buy your own groceries? Again, not realizing all of this is a form of self-care. It's protecting yourself, protecting your ability to show up and perform at a high level, and it becomes even more important as you grow your business. All right, the next middle class mindset that is probably holding you back when it comes to growing your business is not understanding the difference between cost and value. Oh my goodness, I actually talked about this in depth in my video, which you can check out, which is all around luxury marketing secrets that any business owner can apply to their business, regardless of whether they have a luxury business or not. But I talked about how oftentimes the middle class mindset is, well, this is silly and it didn't cost them this much to manufacture this, so why are people spending all this money on this designer handbag or whatever? And again, it's not understanding the difference between cost and value. And value is subjective to the person who is purchasing, right? Value is subjective to the buyer. And so oftentimes, because we have that middle class mindset, when we are a buyer, we also have that middle class mindset as a salesperson when we're selling in our business, and we will often discount our prices because we're like, it didn't cost me this much to create this, especially as a coach, right? Because oftentimes we are selling our knowledge, our information, our expertise. We're like, oh, how much does a Zoom subscription cost, right? How much does my Wi-Fi cost? And so we feel bad about charging at the value of what we're offering, because the true value of our expertise maybe can help someone do extraordinary things in their life that is worth a lot of them, and we should be charging on par with what our expertise is going to help people do. But because we're so used to looking at the cost, right? Because that's what we're taught in the middle class. How much did it cost me to create this thing? We end up really shortchanging ourselves. And so that is a middle class mindset that we need to let go of ASAP. All right, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you're gonna love this workshop that I did not too long ago called My Financial Freedom Formula. This is where I walk you through even more of the money mindsets that you need to have in order to create financial freedom and truly be successful in your life. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link below to download it right now. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you can't wait for my next video, make sure that you are subscribed to my podcast, The Courtney Sanders Show, on both iTunes and Spotify. And if you can't wait for my next podcast episode or my next YouTube video, make sure you are following me on Instagram. It's CourtneyLSanders on Instagram. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.